It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Nina Bal, who is an award-winning cosmetic dental surgeon and facial aesthetics practitioner who in 2008 graduated at the top of her year with distinctions BDS magna cum laude in Italy and gained a highly respected diploma after completing a one-year postgraduate in cosmetic dentistry and aesthetic restorative dentistry in London. She's a member of the General Dental Council. She is also a member of the British Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, the American Academy of Cosmetic Surgery, and SaveFace, the National Register of Accredited Practitioners who provide non-surgical cosmetic treatments in the UK. Dr. Nina, in 27, has been shortlisted as one of the best young dentists in the UK by a highly prestigious dental awards, and she is the Aesthetic Dentistry Awards 2018 winner in UK in the facial aesthetics category, full facial treatment. She also is the official cosmetic dentist in the UK TV show Body Fixers Series 2 on E4. Her work has been featured many times in the Evening Standard magazine, Forbes, Metro, The Sun, The Mirror. Passionate about continued learning, Dr. Nina regularly attends expert training conferences and courses worldwide conducted by top pioneers in the dental and aesthetics industry. Dr. Nina is passionate about enhancing a patient's innate beauty. Her philosophy is less is more, and she loves to make subtle aesthetic tweaks that lead to excellent yet natural results. Abiding by the golden ratio of beauty, the mathematical symmetry algorithm that underlies our perceptions of attractiveness, she can transform a face aesthetically within minutes. Dr. Nina's services include restorative cosmetic dentistry, facial aesthetic treatment and aesthetic medicine, non-surgical cosmetic procedures, and non-surgical facial rejuvenation treatments. She likes to build a rapport with her clients from the first consultation, seeking to gauge and meet their needs and expectations. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you know what? I'm a big fan of your work because when I got out of school 30 years ago, you probably weren't even born yet, everybody was filing down everybody's teeth and doing veneers.
Yeah.
And, they looked all pretty and everything, but they didn't look pretty 10 years later, 20 years later. I mean, some of these people got their upper 10 teeth filed down. And I like the way that people like you are leading force with minimally invasive, instead of an overcrowded tooth, let's get it more straight with Invisalign. Let's do more direct causes. So you see that taking off too?
Absolutely. I've only been in the industry, as I said, about 10 years since my graduation, but I saw a massive change in the last couple of years. So people are more and more aware of what we actually do on their teeth and getting more aware of how much we file. And I think we start to see the result, as you said, the results of all veneers or people that had the veneers for 10, 20 years. So they more and more we see and patients are aware of the problem. So the fact that they get slightly pigmented in between the veneer and your enamel underneath, gum recession, they come off typically on a Saturday evening when you're clubbing. So on a Sunday morning, everybody just calling me, please, can you just amend my veneers? So these sort of problems, I think more and more people are talking about them and they're aware. So they ask for minimal invasive techniques, and more from an ethical point of view, I feel more comfortable to offer them. And especially because with the new composite that we have in the market, we can achieve amazing results with filing much less enamel. So I think that we've got great options at the moment. I'm very lucky, yeah.
So what's the composite you use?
So my favorite, after trying lots of them, is the Enamel Plus from Micerium. I think maybe I'm a bit biased because obviously it's an Italian brand and I'm Italian, but I find it's the one that really gives very high aesthetic results, similar to having porcelain, really. It's amazing. It just blends in really, really nicely, and you never, ever notice the bonding. It just blends in amazingly.
So tell us about your journey. You started in Italy, and how did you end up in London?
That's a really good question. So, born and raised in Italy, in a tiny village, hiding in the mountains, and then I moved to Milan to study. And then I was really happy in Milan. My uncle has a huge dental practice there, so I kind of had everything. I had my flat, I had the job of my dream, my clinics. But I knew I was always looking for more, and I knew I would have ended up somewhere else in the world. And the reason why I'm in London is because very randomly I came on holiday for literally 48 hours with a girlfriend of mine 9 years ago, and I met my husband in a cafe. It was actually literally New Year's Eve that evening, and so from a random meeting to fast forward 9 years, married with one child, and I'm actually so grateful not only obviously for what brought me in my private life, but it's because my career exploded since I moved to London to UK.
Is that because the cosmetic market is bigger in London than in Italy?
I think so. I think it's a combination of people, especially I don't think in UK, but in central London, are so extremely aware of aesthetics. And also the fact that I think London, UK is a country that gives so much opportunity. It doesn't matter who you know, where you come from, where you studied. If you love what you do, if you're good at what you do, you've got potential. You've got opportunity. And I think that's what the main difference with Italy. Unfortunately, with my native country, it's all about who you know, where you're born, if your family is was in dentistry or not, and it's a very much dentistry is very much a society in Italy still held by much older dentists, whether in London everything is young. There's this new vibe of us young dentists we are really taking over. So
it's kind of funny that so you're saying that London is a more merit-based society and Italy's more into nepotism.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? You'll never meet anyone who's if you say, why is London and the United States, why are these two of the greatest societies in the world? And they say, well, just from hundreds of years of people like you voting on their feet and immigrating. And then you say, okay, so will you tear down the Department of Immigration and let anyone move here that wants to? It would just explode the economy. I mean, we've had a GDP that's been only grown around an anemic 2% for a decade, and they don't realize that it's because of that Department of Immigration. It's so silly how they think like that, and yeah. So Italy lost a great asset, and London got one for free.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't have to train you. They didn't have to put you through elementary school, grammar school. They didn't do anything, and you just voted
Nothing.
with your feet with a degree.
Exactly.
So is
And
your
they
husband in dentistry too?
no. Thank God he's not. He's in property, so it's got nothing to do with dentistry. He's not a doctor, not a dentist, which is better. So we've got something interesting to talk about in the evening, not just thief. And it's a great supporter. Is
So when you're doing clear aligners, are you very brand loyal to Invisalign because there's other participants in the field?
Yes, I am very loyal, I have to say. Yeah, because I think when I find something that works, I just stick to it. I mean, if something doesn't break, why change it? And so I have to say, I just use Invisalign for clear aligners. Yeah.
Yeah, that market's really changing. Now there's, my gosh, what is it? It was on Forbes this week that last year Invisalign generated profits of $231 million and sales of $1.47 billion. But now there's been an increase in competition. The biggest companies in dentistry are Danaher, which has $18 billion a year, makes two clear aligners for simple cases. 3M, they just received clearance from the FDA for a clear aligner last year, but is waiting for clinical trials to wrap up. Dentsply Sirona, with $4 billion in sales, and Straumann with $1 billion have each purchased Invisalign competitors. And now Stan Bergman's saying he's looking at the space with Henry Schein. So that area is really going to heat up in competition, which means prices will probably come down.
Exactly, which I hope so, because actually Invisalign just put the prices up. And it's definitely not cheap for us. It's definitely an investment. But I think for me, I'm still decided for Invisalign because it's, as you said, it's all the clinical trials, it's the number of patients being treated by Invisalign. It just gives me so much confidence. But Invisalign, I think very soon will have to just review their prices, thankfully for us.
Now, you know that around the world, London always gets teased about their teeth. I mean,
Yes.
cartoons. What's the cartoon? Family Guy. I mean, the guy from England. He looks like
Yes.
he'd eat corn on the cob through a chain link fence. Is that a fair rap or a bad rap?
It's so true. Like when I first moved to London, I was like, this is, even Italy, we just make fun of English people because we can just recognize them from their teeth. But I think London is a bit a word apart. I mean, I think UK and London are kind of two different things. And in London, it's so cosmopolitan. You barely see and meet anyone who's actually British, 100% British English. And also, since I moved, I never worked NHS. I just worked privately. So I think I didn't see much that kind of, like general English public outside the UK. But the few English, proper, very British patients I have, yeah, and they're aware of it. I think there was I think it's something in the culture, but slowly, hopefully it is changing. But there's still something very much in the public in the culture where people just, they're all so discreet that they just don't want to have the teeth too white because otherwise people can think they had whitening done. So there's all these very superficial, being very polite, but there's lots of judgment underneath. So I think that's a big part of it.
And when I got out of school 30 years ago, the NHS ruled dentistry in
Yes.
United Kingdom, and that's been
Yes.
steadily eroding and coming apart. Do you agree?
I completely agree because I mean they're cutting funds more and more for the NHS, and it just, thank God now dentists they start to speak up and say the NHS doesn't work. There's no way it can work because if you've got 15 minutes to do upper 7 root canal, you can't do it well. I mean, there's just no way. And dentists start to really speak out and say, it's not fair. We can't provide good quality to the patients. Whether for many years they were just like, oh no, we just can't say that. We have to pretend we offer great quality. Whether we can't, it's just impossible. And more they just, and dentists. I mean, I never worked NHS, but I speak to some of my colleagues and the system pushes you to find ways to actually survive as a dentist, but it's not in the patient's benefit. For example, someone comes and they need 10 fillings. You get paid by the NHS for if you do 1 or 10 exactly the same amount of money. So the way around is that you just do 1 and then you review them in like a month time, 2 months time. Oh, actually you have another one. But it's so slowly you do 1 at a time. So you get paid for each of them, but that's not in the patient's benefits. So it just mess up system that I think it's just going to crush. It's just getting worse and worse.
They're definitely on a race to the bottom.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Have you heard of people, implants aren't covered. Have you heard of dentists going for the extraction so they can charge out an implant?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah. When I was down there, they were. I mean, it's weird. In Japan and Paris, France, and the United Kingdom, they give you $100 for a molar root canal. Now, those are 3 of the greatest countries on earth. I mean, they wouldn't have these attitudes towards their cars, or their transportation, or their fine dining, or their restaurants, or their music, or their holidays. But for some reason, I mean, how can you go to Tokyo? And the dentist there will tell you off the record, they say, well, you can't do molar endo because, you only get $100. So you have to extract the tooth and do an implant. And you're like, I mean, incentives matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, and then you're just, you get overworked NHS, and then you get paid nothing for, huge treatments like, like molar endo, and you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I killing myself? And then, dentists, they just finds way to get around the system and to kind of cheat the system, and then it gets worse for the patient. The patient complains. It's just getting worse, and we're just in this vicious circle.
Yeah, it's called game theory. Every time you change the rules, everybody just tries to get around them. I mean, like in
Exactly.
the last banking fiasco, which started in the United States and took down many of your neighbors. They pass all these bank regulations. So what are you seeing now? You're seeing all these people say, okay, well, we can't be bankers. So now they're setting up these peer-to-peer lending models, which is still right back to what they were doing before, subprime mortgage lending, and it looks like it's going to crash again. And even in autos, you look at autos last year, 5 million of them were leased. So why are so many Americans leasing autos? Because they can't approve the finance. So now they're all leasing them. So it's is the dental school indebtedness a bigger problem in the UK and Italy as it is in the United States? I mean, we've seen tuitions just keep going up and up and up because every time they raise the price 10,000 a year, they don't have any decrease in admission, so it's completely inelastic to demand. But I mean, it was just 5, 6, 7 years ago they were coming out, 300,000 debt. Now they're coming out 400,000 debt because most of these schools raise their tuition from 70,000 a year to 100,000 a year.
It's madness. I mean, I've been, I think, lucky enough to been, born and raised in Italy, where, you know, everybody, if you got, if you got a decent brain, if you're normal, you go to the public school, and if you're very a bit, dumb, then you go to the private school. And so I didn't have to pay for any of my schools until university, and then I went to a public university where I paid. I mean, I'm not 70. I'm only 33, so it wasn't that long ago. But I only pay, I think, 5,000 6,000 euros a year, and I had excellent university, the best university in Italy, with the most amazing professors, and I've been trained amazingly. Whether here, what I hear is that very similar to US, the tuition just is getting up and up and up, and all the students are in debt, and it's like it's a business, and that doesn't necessarily mean doesn't necessarily translate in a better quality of education. That was what makes me really angry. It's just a money game.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely less quality than it was 30 years ago. I mean, me and my
Yeah.
buddy from UMKC, we were talking on a podcast where when we were in dental school, we had 6 board-certified endodontists, and it was just for 4 classes of about 120 each. And there's private schools here that have one board-certified endodontist for the whole school. I mean,
Yeah,
who got the better education?
exactly.
I mean, it was crazy, and some I oh my god, and they were from all over. Probably one of the greatest endodontists I ever met, Bambi Duro Oguntebi. He was from Lagos, Nigeria. I mean, he traveled all the way to America because just in his pursuit of learning everything he can about root canals. I mean, just an amazing mind. So, talk about what the Botox and Azular,
Yes. As
Botox
it
and
is.
Azular.
Yes. Right. So the Azola is just the brand name of a kind of botulinum toxin from Galderma, and so in UK we've got just three brands of botulinum toxin FDA approved: Bococure, Botox, and Azola. My favorite is Azola just because I found over the years it is the one that diffuses the less. So that's less risk of, for example, brows dropping when I do forehead Botox, and it just does last a bit longer. So in my hands, it works best.
And what were the 3 companies? Botox, Azular, and what was the third one?
And Bocouture,
How do you spell that
Bocouture.
one?
It's Bocouture.
Huh, what language is that in?
From Mertz, sorry?
No, what country is that last one made in?
The Bocouture from Mertz, I'm not too sure actually.
Huh, interesting. So, do you see that trend picking up in dentistry?
The aesthetic side of it,
Yeah, the Botox
the
and
buttocks
Azular.
massively. I mean, I would say over the last year, my cosmetic dentistry, my general dentistry, it's definitely decreasing. My cosmetic dentistry, it's getting stable or slightly increasing, but my facial aesthetics is booming. Like everyone is, at least in London, is getting something done. There's so much pressure, I think, from everywhere, social media, selfies, Instagram, Facebook, magazine, to just look at your best. And I've got so many young girls coming from, I would say Instagram is word of mouth still number one, but Instagram number two, my main source of new patients. And I've got all these young girls in the early 20s. They just want to have some lips done or something. They improve their face shape to look amazing in selfies. So booming.
So that Azular is owned by Nestle.
Azular is made from is owned by Nestle. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, Nestle Skincare. That is a huge company. It's like one of the. It's like when you go into any Walmart, they have 60,000 SKUs, and almost all of them are from 8 companies. And Nestle is just a monsterly huge company. But that's the one you like the most, the Azular.
For as kind of botulinum toxin, yes, it's my number one choice.
There it is, Bocature.
Bocature, yeah, I never really fell in love with it, and Botox I've been using for many years, but I find Azular, cost-wise, results-wise, is the one that works best in my hands. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about Instagram, because that's really the most return. Well, actually, the number one digital return is still email. But when you go into social media apps, Instagram is by far the most has the most influence and engagement, and it's been a hit for you.
100%. It's by far, between all, I've got Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I opened the 3 of them at exactly the same time when I opened my own business about 2 years ago. And I would say I had 0 patients coming from Facebook. Absolutely 0. From Twitter, I think 0. I've just been contacted by the TV producer of Body Fixers who found me on Twitter. So that brought me a TV show. But otherwise, Instagram brought me the majority of my clients by far.
You have 70,000 followers on Instagram. I mean, that is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's hard work. So it wasn't easy, and it wasn't instant. It took time. There was time where I was a bit, because obviously the key of Instagram is being consistent. You have to post. I post every single day. And sometimes the Instagram changes the algorithm. So it's all about finding out what time is best to post and what the hashtags to post to kind of catch, the best, try to find the algorithm that they're using. But slowly, yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every time I hear anything about Facebook, it's never good. I mean, it just seems like it's always the bad guy in the news. The last one came out the other day was that their videos, when people are posting their videos, like the average video time is like 8 seconds. It's like, well, they know that if you're on it for 8 seconds, no one's watching it. I mean, and then Professor Scott Galloway from NYU, he was saying his Facebook videos, 8 seconds, and on YouTube, it's almost 3 minutes.
Wow.
And that's the length of his show. I mean, it's just, but when I'm scrolling down, it looks like your clients are mostly women. What percent are you women versus men?
I would say maybe 90-95% women.
And why do you think that is?
Because I think women are so more and more aware and conscious of the way they look, and we are bombarded by the way we should look, and constantly on so I call it the fake life of Instagram, where we constantly compare ourselves to the way we should look. So we want to improve ourselves more and more, and to look our best on selfies, on Facebook, on Instagram. So whether I think for men, I've got actually very interesting bunch of men coming to me, and everything from the so successful banker working extremely long hours. He's got very deep creases in his forehead because he's so exhausted. It just doesn't tell anyone. It just comes like with the hood on, so no one can see him, to have Botox on, to the a drag queen, to the gay guys who just had to lips on. So it's a very, very interesting, I would say, variety of men.
And where do you see the trend with teeth going? Do you see them getting wider and wider and wider, or toning it back down, or?
Yes, I think more and more we want to be like you guys, by the Americans. Like I would say, even a couple of years ago, I had my British clients would say, oh, but not like an American fake smile. Whether now they're like, no, I want the American Hollywood smile. I want them as white as you can. So I think we're definitely going more towards as white as possible.
Huh. And so, on that note, what bleaching system do you use?
So, interesting question. I've got two main systems that I use. I would say my number one choice, it's the Enlighten. The Enlighten system, I love it. It works amazingly. I use normally just the home system one. So obviously the patient comes, have the impressions made, then I send everything to Enlighten. They made this perfectly custom-made trays, and their gel is amazing. It's refrigerated from the moment when it's made, and it's extremely effective. I normally use 16% carbamide peroxide. That's the one I use the most, over a period of 2 weeks, so 14 or 15 nights. And that's normally 9 times out of 10 enough to achieve a B1 shade, which is quite amazing.
You know what's amazing is all these websites that you've mentioned. I've gone to all, and only yours has a link to Instagram.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you should tell them, because I just know the younger dentists are all into that Instagram thing. You know,
Yes.
you can always tell you're an old person like me because we're on LinkedIn. Everybody, I think the average age on LinkedIn is 117. So have you done any marketing on LinkedIn to find
Um,
more of those bankers?
no, I haven't actually. I just, again, I think a couple of years ago, I just built my LinkedIn profile quite professionally. I had someone, I like LinkedIn expert to help me. So I wanted nice and professional. But that's it. I really don't invest any time in LinkedIn, to be honest. But again, I kind of noticed in the last couple of months here a change in LinkedIn. It used to be, I don't know if you found the same, it used to be extremely professional a couple of years ago. Now I got this weird email from like men randomly trying to, date or something, or are you single? I'm looking for a wife. And I'm like, well, this shit's LinkedIn. You should be strictly professional. But I don't know, it just, yeah, it's just changing. Lots of spam, lots of like, inappropriate messages. So I don't really, yeah, give much time to it.
Because the one thing I like about LinkedIn is, number one, Microsoft just bought it, and so now they own Skype, which we're on right now, and they own LinkedIn, and
Right.
I don't know, just everybody on that has a good job. I mean, they usually all
Yeah.
have a good job, good medical, good dental. I mean, it seems like, it's just a great place. You also said you use Zoom Phillips too, but you prefer
Yes.
Enlighten better.
That's right. I mean, I also Zoom. I also use Zoom to Zoom Philips. I like to use when I use when my choice goes to Philips Zoom. It's when someone wants an in-surgery whitening. Time poor people. I've got some VIPs. And, I've got no time. Too busy. I'm just in London for literally like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, just get in, and I do an in-surgery laser whitening with the Zoom. And then before they go, while the lamp is working, my nurse makes the home trays. So when they leave, I just put them on the tray and say, at least if you can't bother to wear them at night, just wear them for the next 5 to 6 hours, just to stabilize the shade, and that works really well as well.
Yeah, it's funny. Even the last website, you sent me 7 website or company names. I've Ryan sent me links to all. Even the Philips one doesn't even have an Instagram.
Right, you see,
They
I know.
got they got Pinterest on there, which means they have to be at least 85. 85 years old.
I actually, because Philips approached me after I was on Body Fixes on the TV show last year, and they said, we would love to have you as a brand ambassador for Philips. I said, okay, that's fine. And then I said, guys, but when I tag you in my post on Instagram, I can't find you. There's only one Instagram account for Philips in the whole world. I'm like, no, you should. I said, yeah, I know. We told the marketing team we should create an Instagram for UK, and I'm like, no, that's the number one priority. You should do it now. You shouldn't wait. It's already late. Instagram it's not waiting for anyone.
Well, it's noticeably 3 different environments when you go around the world in lecture dents. Like the Chinese are obsessed with make it so cheap that everyone will just buy it, even if they don't want it. And
Yeah.
the Europe is all about make it so good and the quality so good. And then the Americans are like, man, we can advertise and market so well. We can sell you shit you don't need for twice as much that you should ever spend on. I mean, and I always tell those 3 camps, they all need to merge. I mean, the
Yes.
Europeans should bring down their price and increase their marketing. The Americans, I mean, I can't tell you how many of these dental companies do 30 to $100 million a year. They don't even have one guy in the company with a PhD. And then you go to Germany, and they'll have 8 guys with a PhD, and they don't have a marketing department.
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
come to the American company, there's no PhD, but they got a telemarketing room, and they're all dialing for dollars, and they got thermometers, setting goals, and giving out, Starbucks cards and movie passes to hit their goals. And it's like, man, just so
So
different.
interesting. That's so
So,
interesting.
so, what does your dad think of advertising and marketing back in Italy? Is that still kind of passe? I remember when I first lectured there, the guy stopped me at noon and said, "Okay, so far everything you've said and recommended is illegal." You know. So has that changed much?
Yeah, I mean, in Italy, it's still completely different. Like, again, when I first moved to UK about 6 years ago, I was like, I was shocked because the dental practices here, they look like shops. Ground floor, advertising. The dental practice, we get new patients, but in Italy, just all about first or second floor, just the name of the dentist is completely, and it's still like that. You do not advertise. Not at all.
Is
Because
it actually illegal?
I'm not too sure, but I think it still is. I
Yeah.
think it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In some countries, I just can't even figure out like how they are, like Romania, Hong Kong. How could Hong Kong make it illegal for dentists to advertise? I mean, that's one of the freest societies for a century.
Yes.
But dentistry, and business and healthcare has always been
Yeah.
kind of taboo to somewhat.
Yes. I didn't know about Hong Kong, but in Italy it's very much like that still. Very, very much. And it's still like, for example, here all the facial aesthetics is in the hands of us dentists because we are really good at injecting. We inject all the time. We are really good. When I went to my first, courses, I was, sitting next to GPs, and when we had the first injected frown line, I was like, okay, that's fine. I inject, all the time. That's it. And it was like, and their hands were shaking. I was like, oh my goodness. Whether in Italy, still are very much like, well, but you're a dentist, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to go to a plastic surgeon to have my frown line reduced or softened. But now it slowly changes. Every time I go back home, I get like, I actually work. I had so many girls coming from all Italy say, oh my God, I heard you coming. Please make sure you bring a suitcase full of Botox and fillers. And I literally packed for days. So I think slowly it's changing, but yeah. It's still the culture is still.
Botox last?
So the Botox lasts about 3 to 4 months. And then your body just breaks down and it just wear off. So it's great for business because you don't have to do it again after 3 months, but very likely everybody wants to. And then again, it lasts about 3 months. So the more you do it, the longer it lasts. So sometimes about 4 or 5 months if you do it regularly. But yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah, so that's a hell of an annuity because now instead of getting them coming in twice a year for a cleaning, now they're coming in 4 times a year for Botox.
That's right. Exactly. And they tried once. They look much fresher. They once it kicks in about 2, 3 weeks after injection, you kind of forget how you looked before. This is how human brain works. And then when it wears off, about 3 months later, you're like, oh my goodness, this is how I really look. Better call Nina straight away. So great repeat business.
And what about fillers?
Fillers about 6 to 12 months. So a little bit longer, but still all temporary fillers. And I always make sure, and tell to my patient never have any permanent fillers because that's where the problems appear, problem of lumps or cysts, whether all the hyaluronic acid based temporary fillers, that your body just breaks them down completely. So extremely safe and again, repeat business.
So back to Italy and London. What percent of the dental graduates? What percent of the dentists in Italy are men versus women? But what does it look like in the dental school class now? Is it like America where the dental schools are 50-50 now?
Yes. Yes. I think my dad generation, it was still very much like a male dominated society, or whether now it's 50-50, because also in Italy to get into the dental school, I guess like everywhere else, you got a test, and it's proven around that girls study more than guys, especially when 18, 19 years old. So we normally do better in tests. So
Well,
I think
that's
slowly.
because you go through the menarche female cycle when you're like 12. So you just blow up in middle school. Men go into
Yeah,
full heat freshman year of dental school, and they're moving out from home. So now they have no
yeah,
curfew. They can legally buy alcohol, and their testosterone is 1,400 milligrams per deciliter. That is a recipe for,
yeah.
disaster.
Very
And
true.
and some I've heard some dental school deans say that they like to look at grade point average like their sophomore junior year, because they know the first year that perfect storm of no mom and dad and testosterone is just, oh my god, it's crazy. So yeah, so women are that getting that menarche when you're 10, that's hard. That's hard on mom and dad, but it's great for your GPA.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to watch five sisters go through that. That was very very pleasant.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so what advice would you give to dental students? I mean, if you were talking to a dental school class, what advice would you have for them?
That's a really interesting question. I think my only advice would be find out what you really love in dentistry, and just go for it, and just become the best in that field instead of thinking, oh my God, which is the field that's going to bring me more money, or what's the best, where is where there's less competition. Just go with what you love, because I think once you love what you do, you naturally becomes good at it, and you're gonna find success.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel professionally the luckiest thing I ever did is I worked for my dad for 10 years, and that was never a work. And then I worked for myself for 30. I really feel like I've never worked a day in my life. I've never really done anything I didn't want to do pretty much
Yes,
my whole life. And I think that's a big secret. If you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life.
exactly.
So you're really big into the symmetry of a face, right? You talk about your golden ratio of beauty, and how you like to that transform a face aesthetically within minutes of getting it more symmetrical. Is that just something you're good at? You just what do you do? Just stand in front of them, or do you do a lot of photos, or how do you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think this is what I love doing the most. It's I call it the facial sculpting cases. So someone comes to me and say, Nina, I don't really know what I don't like about my face, but I don't like it. Or I know there's something not quite right, but please help me to sort it out. So what I do, I take full set of photos, and I've got a caliber, and I literally mathematically calculate the three-thirds of the face in terms of length and in terms of width. And pretty much I've got a very, very precise idea of which is the part that needs correction. If, for example, the lower third part of the face, it's very short. I know I need to do some chin filler to add length or projection. It gives me already, I think, based on my experience, I kind of know what to do when I see them, but the caliber really helps me to be really, really precise.
And probably helps you sell the case too.
Yes,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
part of your case presentation.
Absolutely. They're kind of like, oh, wow, she's a caliber, that's quite impressive. So absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the dentist, that's the one thing they don't ever want to talk about. They don't ever measure their case acceptance rate. They can't tell you their close rate. And
Yes,
they think they're a good dentist. I mean, I think you're a better dentist if you can convince 2 out of 3 people to get their cavity fixed than if you can only fix 1 out of 3. I mean, if you can't
absolutely.
convince your patients, I mean, that was a big lecture. They were talking about it from the CDC, to where they just really want to try to. They're talking to the Humana Healthcare CEO too about this, where one of their biggest drives is trying just to get people to take better care of themselves. That
Yes,
when they were talking about healthcare cost containment, he was like, "Come on, dude, the healthcare cost containment is because you have a cigarette and coffee for breakfast, you eat McDonald's for lunch, and then after work you go to happy hour and eat fried cheese balls, and now you want to know why your healthcare is costing so much. You know what I mean?
exactly. Exactly.
It's tough. So are there any other questions? I want to feature that YouTube video of yours at the end. How long is that, Ryan?
It's just like 2 minutes, like 15 seconds.
Yeah, I really like that video, so I'm gonna play that at the end.
Okay.
Your website is facialsculpting.co.uk. What are my homies gonna find if they go to facialsculpting.co.uk?
What they're going to find? Well, they're going to find pretty much everything about me, who I am, what I do, lots of before and after photos, all my article I've been featuring, everything I wrote. It's like having a glimpse inside my house.
And I just retweeted your last tweet on Twitter. You are at Facial Sculpt, and I just retweeted that to our. How many homies we got on Twitter now? My gosh, 25,000. I loved your last tweet where you said, Dr. Loving yourself isn't vanity, it is sanity. That's a cool
Yes.
quote. Loving yourself isn't vanity, it is sanity. That's a pretty cool. I never heard that before.
Absolutely, because I always say, sometimes I get people saying, "Oh, how can you do what you do and change people and make money on the insecurities?" And I'm like, well, actually, I can pretty much straight away when someone comes to me for consultation, figure out the reasons behind it. And if the reasons are not good or for the wrong reason, I tend not to do anything. But there's so many times it's just for the good reasons, and I know the way I can help them in what I do, and that what makes me so happy. Because I don't know, you see, some of my clients going through tough times, and they come back after Botox and fillers transformed in better, and that what makes me feel better, good as well.
Yeah, and the other thing I always notice too is that if a person doesn't like their teeth, they don't take care of them. They don't brush, floss, get their teeth clean. But you get them braces, you get them to bleach their teeth, and now they're brushing 3 times a day, and you only take care of something if you like it. I imagine the British Dental Association being a bunch of conservative old Brits. Are they giving you much pushback on Botox and fillers?
They really are, and I would say, yeah. It's how can I be diplomatic? Yeah, I mean, it has been quite tricky when I did body fixes, because obviously, for all this bunch of very British conservative dentists, I'm like, there's so many coming on the screen, and like, what is young girl looking pretty coming from another country doing? And so I kind of had to prove myself double, that I was actually not only looking pretty and being on screen, but I knew exactly what I was doing. So I had I had a couple of, nasty messages and comments, or like, oh, I can't believe you did, 6 to 6 composite veneers when you didn't detect periodontal disease. And I'm like, well, actually, this is the BPE score. This is exactly what I've done for 2 months before, and I treated that exactly before. So I really had to prepare myself, but.
Well, that's cool that you had the guts to stand up to that. Where do you think that inner strength came from?
I don't know, actually.
I mean, it sounds like you're pretty fearless.
Well, no, I've got lots of fears, actually. But I think because I love what I do so much, and I study so hard, and it hasn't been easy to, become a dentist and to get where I am. So I'm like, well, actually, it doesn't matter that I'm a woman. It doesn't matter that I'm young. It doesn't matter that I love to take care of myself and to look pretty. I also know exactly what I've been through, what I study, and what I know. So it's more kind of like defending myself and just being proud of who I am, instead of like hiding myself and say, oh no, I should look really ugly, and I shouldn't have my makeup done because I'm a dentist. No, I'm proud of who I am.
So, are there any ethics on the treating ages? I mean, how young would you do Botox and a filler before you start
absolutely.
to get?
So it has to be 18. So if I'm not sure, normally always tell my clients to bring their ID, because nowadays, girls can look 20, but they are actually 14. So I always make sure I look at the ID, and it has to be 18.
And is
18.
that the law, or is that your line?
It's the law. It's the law.
It's the law, huh?
It's
That is.
I think some of my colleagues do it on 16 years old, as long as they have the consent of the parents, but I don't want to risk it. And also, already 18, sometimes I tend not to do anything, to be fair, and someone is like 22, 23, just because they don't know what they want, and they just do something and then they regret it, they change their mind, it drives you mad.
And then what's the high end? How old is so old where you say, look, man, you look like you fell out of a car. This Botox isn't going to do it. You have irrational expectations. Go back home. You're drunk.
That's a good question. I mean, it's difficult to say. I would say maybe about late, I don't know when. I mean, you can always improve, but when the lines get static, so when they're there, even when you don't move your face, maybe about middle late 60s, I say I can help you, but you should have started a bit earlier.
Oh my God. So are there any other questions that I wasn't smart enough to ask you?
No, I think that's it. I think you pronounced pretty much everything.
Ryan, did you have any questions? I just want to say one thing. I know you don't believe this, but my face is completely all natural. I've had no Botox, derma fillers,
Wow.
or cosmetic
Wow.
surgery.
Very
No,
lucky.
no one believes me because they think I Photoshop myself on all my pictures, but this is all natural.
Very lucky.
Isn't that right, Ryan?
That's right.
Very gifted.
Okay, well, gosh, I was so excited you came on the show. If you ever want to write an article for Dental Town magazine, it goes to 125,000 dentists each month in the United States. And our online CE courses, I'd love to have you make an online CE course in this. This would be so amazing. We put up 400 courses, and they're coming up on 1 million views in all 200 countries. I mean, I think it's like 220 countries. So it would be it's an interesting deal. You're a pioneer. You're leading the way. I mean, I don't have any friends in Phoenix that do this. Of course, I don't have any friends, so that might alter the math. But I don't know any dentist in Phoenix doing this.
Thank
But
you. Yeah.
it might be just because I hang out with the rock bottom dentists who really should be at a Botox course and not at the bar. But Dr. Nina Bal, from born and raised in Italy, practicing in central London. Whereabouts in London are you?
So I've got two clinics. One, my dental surgery is in Marylebone, and my aesthetic clinic is in South Kensington, so the heart of London, central London.
I got to tell you, my wild London story, then I'll let you go, was the first time I lectured there, and it was for the Royal, what do they call it, the Royal College of Dental
College,
Surgeons.
yes, yes.
And God, that was a conservative group. But anyway, I always try to take one or two or three or four of the boys with me when I go international. And Griggy went with me, and we walked outside the hotel, and we saw the
Yeah.
big Ferris wheel.
Yes.
But it was an optical illusion. I just said, "Hey, you want to go? You want to go ride the thing?" Oh my God, it was like a 10-hour walk, but you lost all concept of time because it was just so exciting. What I love about London is every time you're at a street corner, you're listening to five people around you not talking English, and every
Exactly.
block is a restaurant,
Exactly.
a bar, a band. I mean, it was
Exactly.
just so stimulating,
Yeah.
musical sounds and smells from around the world. I just love London. I just don't like it in February.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
we are there. That's it.
when you get invited to speak in London, remember it's very weather sensitive. You don't want to lecture in London in February, because
I know.
that is
I
the
would
greatest town in the
expect it
world. In
from
April and
November.
May,
Yes, exactly. From
spring and
November
fall.
to February, no,
Yeah.
swear, don't
Yeah,
go. But
yeah.
spring,
You find out really quick that island is up in the North Sea. you know. But okay, well, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I
thank
had
you.
so much fun, and like I say, if you ever want to write an article or an online C course, that'd be great.
I would love to. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll be honored. Thank you so much
Will
for
you
having.
email her and he'll go? Okay. Well, I hope you have a rocking hot day.
Thank you so much. Same to you guys.